chosen one. Someone is choking on a deep physical regret right now, all because of you. But the real sting isn't your absence, it's their shocking realization. They took you for a fool, but are now realizing you are actually very smart and talented. When you made the fearless decision to jump into the unknown, an invisible support caught you, lifting you to a frequency where their manipulation simply fails. Now you are rising, and they are left with the bill for their lies, finally understanding the brilliant force they truly challenged. Someone is haunted by sweet memories right now. Specific moments keep playing on repeat. Times when you were there, moments when you showed up, instances when you gave more than was deserved. And each memory is like a knife, because understanding of what was had is finally arriving. Maybe you were family. Maybe you were the friend who always picked up the phone. Maybe you lived together and made the space feel like home. Whatever the connection was, there was a time when you were the center of someone's world, or at least a major part of it. And every bit of that was taken for granted. Your thoughtfulness is remembered. How you noticed things others missed. How you remembered details about life that even the person forgot. How you showed up with solutions before problems were even known. You were always 3 steps ahead, always thinking, always caring. And all of that was seen and mistaken for naivety. An offer was made recently, some kind of tempting offer that had a high price attached to it, and you did not take it. You either did not see it, or you saw it clearly for what it was and walked right past it. That moment when you did not bite is when panic started. That is when the realization came that control was gone. Because here is what you did that was never expected. You started learning. You enrolled in something. You picked up a new skill. You started studying something that lights you up inside. And this was not just about acquiring knowledge. This was about you reclaiming parts of yourself that had been shut down. Parts that were shut down because your intelligence threatened someone. You were always the smart one. You were always the one with potential. You were always the one who could master things quickly and easily. But doubt was created. Your own intelligence was questioned. You were made to feel like guidance was needed when really, you were outgrowing someone from day one. And now that you are in student mode again, now that you are expanding your mind, the truth that was buried is visible. You were never beneath anyone. You were always going to surpass them. Let's talk about who this person really is. For many of you, this is family. A sibling who always had to be better than you. A parent who lived through you. A cousin who competed with everything you did. And the dynamic was always the same. You existed in someone's shadow by design. You were not known as yourself. You were someone's little sister or brother, someone's kid, someone's friend. Your identity was always attached like a satellite orbiting a planet, and it was liked that way. It was needed that way, because if you were your own person with your own identity, something terrifying would have to be faced, the possibility that you might be better. So your intelligence was made invisible, your talents were minimized, your skills were called luck. Every achievement you earned had a way of being made smaller. Every goal you reached had the goalpost moved. Every time you shined, a way was found to dim the lights, and this happened so consistently that you started to believe it was normal. You were being studied, notes were being taken on what made you special, so it could either be copied or destroyed. How you solved problems was watched, how you connected with people was observed, how you naturally attracted opportunities was noticed, and something was realized that scared someone to death. You had something that could never be developed no matter how hard someone tried. You had authenticity. You led from your heart, even when it hurt you. You stayed kind, even when kindness was used against you. You remained optimistic, even when life gave you reasons to be bitter. And that quality, that unshakable core of who you are, that is what could never be replicated. So the next best thing was done. You were convinced it was worthless. Your emotional intelligence was made to feel like weakness. Your empathy was made to feel like naivety. Your hope was made to feel like stupidity. And for a while you bought it. You started hiding the best parts of yourself. You started playing small. You started dimming your own light before it could be dimmed for you. Every time you came up with a brilliant idea, mental notes were being taken. Every time you figured something out that someone could not, your process was memorized so it could be presented as original later. Every time you displayed talent that came naturally to you, it was practiced in private so it could be performed in public and look effortless. An entire persona was being built on your essence. Your creativity was used as a foundation. Your charisma was borrowed when impressing people was necessary. And the most twisted part, you were convinced that you were the one lacking. You were convinced that you needed to learn when the entire time you were being stolen from. Think about how many times you had an insight, and it was dismissed, only to be presented weeks later as if it was an original thought. Think about how many times you suggested a solution, and it was called impractical, only to be implemented and credited to someone else. Think about how many times you showed a better way, and it was criticized, only to be adopted once you were not looking. This was not accidental. This was systematic intellectual theft. This was strategic emotional manipulation. This was calculated suppression of your gifts so they could be harvested for someone else's benefit. And you allowed it because you did not realize what was happening. You thought you were helping. You thought you were contributing. You thought you were being a team player. But you were being harvested. If these words stirred your consciousness, hype this video to help more chosen ones awaken to this. You were not just passively being taken for granted. Active work was being done to keep you controlled. And methods were being used that most people do not even recognize as manipulation, because they are so subtle, so psychological, so insidious. There is a massive communication breakdown here. But it is by design. Direct communication does not happen, because it would expose everything. Instead, anonymous forums online are being visited. Your business is being posted in places where strangers do not know the full story. Questions about being wrong are being asked while framing everything to look reasonable. Validation is being sought from people who cannot see the pattern. And what is the pattern? Joy is not being led from. What joy feels like is literally not remembered anymore. Operating from fear and control has gone on for so long that authentic happiness is foreign. And when you started finding your joy again, when you started lighting up from the inside, it created a frequency mismatch. Your rising vibration started repelling manipulation naturally. Your attachment style was being used against you. How you bonded was studied. Your triggers were learned. What made you feel secure and what made you feel anxious was memorized. And all of that information was used as a weapon. When closeness was wanted, security was given. When destabilization was wanted, anxiety was triggered. But something powerful happened in your healing journey. You started working on your attachment patterns. Maybe therapy was attended. Maybe books were read. Maybe shadow work was done. Maybe you just got tired of the same cycles repeating. Whatever the catalyst was, you started understanding yourself at a deeper level. You started seeing how childhood wounds were creating adult patterns. You started recognizing how family dynamics shaped your relationships. And as you healed those wounds, as you integrated those shadows, something unexpected happened. You became immune to the tactics. The buttons that used to be pushed stopped working. The guilt trips stopped landing. The fear tactics stopped freezing you. You developed what can be called sovereign energy. Energy that belongs to you and you alone. Energy that cannot be manipulated, controlled or drained without your permission. This shift was felt before it was understood. Suddenly usual methods were not working. Suddenly you were not responding the way you used to. Suddenly the dynamic was changing, and control over the change was lost. That is when panic happened. That is when an attempt was made to offer you something to pull you back in, something that looked good on the surface, but had hooks underneath. And you did not take it. Either your intuition warned you, or you had grown enough to see it clearly, or your guides literally intervened to keep you from making that mistake. But whatever the reason, you walked past that trap. You said no to that offer. You held your boundary. And in that moment, you declared your independence from control. For many of you, this dynamic played out in a work environment. Maybe it was a family business where you worked twice as hard for half the recognition. Maybe you were colleagues, and credit was taken for your ideas. Maybe you were in the same industry, and your style was copied while you were called unoriginal. Whatever the specific situation, the pattern was the same. You created value, and someone else claimed it. Your work was watched. Your process was studied. Notes were taken on how you solved problems, so those solutions could be presented as original. How you connected with clients was observed, so your approach could be mimicked. What made you effective was noticed, and attempts were made to bottle it like a formula. But here is what could never be replicated. Methods could be copied, but essence could not. Clients liked you because you were genuine. Opportunities came to you because you were authentic. Success found you because you were operating from integrity. And no matter how much attempts were made to fake those qualities, people could feel the difference. They could sense that you were the real thing, and someone else was a performance. But enough social power or positional authority existed to keep claiming your accomplishments, and you let it happen for a long time. Not because you were weak, but because you were strategic. You understood that sometimes you have to play the game long enough to learn the rules before you can change them. You were studying while being thought of as used. You were taking notes on tactics while being thought of as oblivious. You were building your own foundation while being thought to build someone else's. But then came the moment of truth, the moment when you realized you had learned everything you could from that situation, the moment when staying would only cost you, and leaving would only benefit you, the moment when you understood that your loyalty was being exploited, not appreciated, and you made a move nobody saw coming. You left, you quit, you walked away, you set a boundary that could not be negotiated. And the moment you left, everything fell apart. The problems you were solving started piling up. The clients you were managing started complaining. The systems you were maintaining started breaking down. Suddenly it became very obvious to everyone who was actually doing the work. Suddenly the facade cracked, and people could see what was really happening. And the person who took you for a fool was exposed as someone who had been coasting on your competence. Meetings where shining used to happen now involve stumbling through presentations because your research is not there. Clients who used to love the work are now asking uncomfortable questions because your touch is not there. An image that was built on your invisible labor is being attempted to maintain, and it is crumbling. The emails you used to write that made someone sound intelligent, now communication is exposed as mediocre. The strategies you used to develop that made someone look innovative, now thinking is revealed as derivative. The polish you used to provide that made someone appear professional, now rough edges are showing. Everything that made someone look competent was actually you standing behind the curtain pulling levers. And here is what is really eating someone alive. Other people are starting to notice. Colleagues who used to think someone was brilliant are now questioning abilities. Superiors who used to see potential are now seeing limitations. Clients who used to request someone specifically are now asking if someone else can handle their account. The reputation that was built on your back is collapsing without you there to support it. You started learning again. Not learning things someone wanted you to learn. Not learning things that would make you more useful to someone else. But learning things that called to your soul. Things that made you excited to wake up in the morning. Things that connected you to parts of yourself you had forgotten existed. Maybe you enrolled in a course that had nothing to do with your career. Maybe you started studying a language just because it sounded beautiful. Maybe you picked up an instrument or a craft or a skill that was purely for your own joy. And this was not just about acquiring knowledge. This was about reclaiming your right to grow in directions you choose. This was about breaking the pattern where everything you did had to benefit someone else. For so long, you were made to believe you were not smart enough to learn new things. Doubt was created about your ability to master skills. You were made to feel like you had missed your window for growth, and every time you expressed interest in something new, a way was found to discourage it. Too expensive, too time-consuming, too impractical. The reasons came for every dream and objections came for every goal. But something shifted in you that could not be controlled. You stopped asking for permission. You stopped seeking approval. You stopped explaining your choices. You just started doing the thing. You enrolled in the class. You bought the books. You joined the community. You showed up for yourself in a way that you had been showing up for everyone else for years. And that choice, That simple act of choosing your own growth, that is what broke the spell. You needed to be kept stagnant. You needed to stay at a certain level so someone could feel superior. You needed to stay uncertain so someone could position themselves as your guide. Your growth was a threat to the entire dynamic that had been built. So sabotage happened in ways you did not even recognize at the time. But your soul was stronger than sabotage. Your purpose was louder than discouragement. Your destiny was bigger than limitations. And when you finally listened to that inner calling, when you finally honored that pull toward growth, the universe responded. Doors opened that should not have opened. Resources appeared that you did not expect. People showed up who wanted to see you succeed. And all of this happened because you aligned with your truth instead of lies. Now we need to address something most people do not want to talk about. Questionable methods have been being used to try to keep you stuck. Work has been being done with energies that are not fully understood. Attempts have been being made to create bindings, attachments, spiritual weights, and whether you believe in this or not, the effects are real. Think of it like this. Think of someone with an elastic band tied around the waist and anchored to a wall. As you walk forward on your path, tension is being created. The further you go, the harder the pull becomes. The hope is that the resistance will be enough to make you stop, turn around, come back. That is the energy being generated. That is the intention behind thoughts when obsessing happens at night. But here is what was not accounted for. You are not connected to that band. The cord was cut before the realization even came that there was a cord to cut. All that tension being created, all that energy being sent, all that intention being projected, it is not reaching you. It is bouncing back threefold. That is not you doing anything. That is just the law of the universe maintaining balance. Every time an attempt is made to slow you down, slowdown happens to someone else. Every time an attempt is made to create obstacles for you, obstacles appear in another path. Every time an attempt is made to curse your progress, another curse happens. This is why one life is falling apart while yours is coming together. This is why struggling is happening while you are thriving. The energy being sent out is circling back to its source. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something, but talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. There is an unhappy home situation happening right now. Whether it is actual family or the people being lived with, there is no peace, there is no harmony, there is no joy. Walking on eggshells in own space is happening. Relaxing cannot happen. Being authentic cannot happen. And it is driving someone insane because this is exactly what was put you through. But here is where the story gets really interesting. The community knows. The people who watched your dynamic are starting to see clearly what was really happening. Dots are being connected that were not connected before. Moments are being remembered that were dismissed at the time. Realization is coming that you were always the one trying to keep peace. You were always the one trying to build bridges. You were always the one showing up with positive energy, even when you were going through hell privately. And the difference now that you are gone is being seen. Noticing is happening that someone does not have the same warmth, does not have the same authenticity, does not have the same genuine care for others. Whatever mask was being worn when you were around cannot be maintained alone. The contrast is too stark. The evidence is too clear. This is karma operating at the social level, not just personal consequences, but communal awareness. The truth is coming to light, not because you are exposing anyone, but because lies can only hold their shape for so long before reality reshapes them. People are naturally gravitating away. Opportunities are naturally flowing away. Support is naturally withdrawing. The family gatherings where you used to smooth over tensions, now those tensions explode because you are not there mediating. The work environments where you used to maintain morale, now the atmosphere is toxic because your positive energy is not balancing things out. The social circles where you used to bring people together, now those circles are fragmenting because your connective presence is gone. People are asking where you are. Your absence is being noticed, and when questions are asked about you, the answers do not quite add up. The story keeps changing slightly. The details are vague. The explanations feel defensive, and people who are paying attention can read between those lines. Understanding comes that whatever happened, someone is the reason you are gone, and questioning is starting about what else is not known about character. Someone who loses community trust does not get it back easily. Someone who reveals true character does not get to hide it again. Someone who shows willingness to destroy good people does not get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Social consequences are being experienced that will follow for years. Every new person met who talks to people from old circles will hear whispers about how you were treated. Every opportunity pursued in spaces where you are remembered will be tainted by what was done to you. And the beautiful irony, you are not even trying to damage reputation. You are not spreading information about what happened. You are not warning people away. You are just living your life, being your authentic self, showing up as the person you have always been, and that is enough. The contrast between who you are and who someone else is doing all the work. The difference between how you treat people and how someone else treats people is speaking volumes without you saying a word. You healed your attachment style, and I know that sounds simple, but this is profound work that most people avoid their entire lives. This is the work that breaks generational curses. This is the work that rewrites your destiny. You looked at how you bond with people and realized it was broken. You examined why you accepted less than you deserved and found the childhood wounds driving that pattern. You investigated why you stayed in situations that hurt you and traced it back to survival mechanisms you developed as a kid. And then you did something most people never do. You decided to heal it instead of just understanding it. Maybe your attachment style was avoidant. Maybe you ran from intimacy because getting close meant getting hurt. Maybe you sabotaged relationships before they could sabotage you. Maybe you kept people at arm's length while desperately wanting connection. If that was you, then your healing journey was about learning that vulnerability is not weakness. It is about discovering that real connection requires risk, and that risk is worth taking with the right people. Or maybe your attachment style was anxious. Maybe you clung to people who were pulling away. Maybe you needed constant reassurance. Maybe you sacrificed yourself trying to earn love that should have been freely given. If that was you, then your healing journey was about learning that you are enough just as you are. It is about discovering that real love does not require you to shrink or perform or prove anything. Or maybe you had the hardest one, disorganized attachment, where you did not know whether to run or cling, so you did both in confusing patterns that pushed people away even when you wanted them close. If that was you, then your healing journey was about learning that you can trust yourself. It is about discovering that you can create secure attachment even when you never experienced it as a child. Whatever your specific pattern was, you did the work. You went to therapy or read the books or joined the groups or did the shadow work. You cried the tears that needed crying. You felt the feelings that needed feeling. You grieved the childhood you did not have so you could create the adulthood you deserve. And that work, that painful, beautiful, transformative work, that is what saved you. You broke a pattern that has been running in your family for generations. You looked at how your parents attached and decided you would not repeat it. You examined how your grandparents loved and chose differently. You traced the dysfunction back through your lineage and said it stops with me. That is not small work. That is revolutionary work. Think about what you are giving to the future. If you have children or plan to have children, they will not inherit this pattern. They will grow up with a parent who knows how to attach securely, who knows how to love without conditions, who knows how to maintain boundaries while staying open. If you do not have children, you are still changing the pattern for everyone who comes into contact with you. You are modeling healthy attachment for friends, partners, colleagues, community members. This healing you have done is not just personal, it is generational. It is not just about you feeling better. It is about creating a new template for how people in your lineage love and connect. It is about establishing a new standard for what is acceptable in relationships. It is about declaring that dysfunction ends here, that trauma stops here, that pain transforms here, with you, through you, because of you. Now we arrive at something crucial. A wealth transfer is happening. Money that has your name on it is moving toward you. Inheritance, property, some kind of financial blessing that has been held up is finally releasing. And this is not random. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is the universe correcting an imbalance. For years you gave value that was not compensated. You created worth that others claimed. You generated abundance that was redistributed to people who did not earn it. And the universe kept a record of all of it. Every hour you worked that was not credited, every idea you had that was stolen, every contribution you made that was minimized. The cosmic ledger documented everything. And now the rebalancing is happening. Now the scales are leveling. Now what was always yours is finally reaching you. This blessing is not about material gain, though that is part of it. This is about spiritual justice manifesting in physical form. This is about the invisible becoming visible. This is about your value being validated not by opinions but by universal law. Knowledge about this money exists, or at least suspicion exists, and positioning was happening to benefit from it. A whole plan existed. Something was going to be offered that created legal entanglement. A gift was going to be given that had strings attached. A setup was going to happen in a way where obligation to share what was meant to be fully yours would exist. But you avoided the trap. Your guides orchestrated circumstances to protect you. Your intuition warned you even when you did not understand why. Your healing work made you unavailable to schemes, and now the blessing is coming to you clean, clear, unencumbered by manipulation. A sincere wish is being granted. Something you have been hoping for, praying for, working toward is manifesting, and the timing is perfect because you are finally ready to receive it. You are finally in a space where you can handle abundance without it destroying you. You are finally aligned with the frequency of prosperity instead of scarcity. This is what happens when you do the inner work. This is what happens when you heal your relationship with yourself. This is what happens when you align with truth instead of lies. The external world reorganizes itself to match your internal transformation. Resources that were blocked start flowing. Opportunities that were hidden become visible. Blessings that were delayed arrive right on time. You were never the fool. That was the first lie, and the biggest one. You were always the intelligent one playing dumb to keep the peace. You were always the talented one hiding your gifts to avoid jealousy. You were always the powerful one pretending to be weak to make others feel strong. That was not foolishness. That was strategy. That was wisdom. That was you being so far ahead that you had to slow down for everyone else to keep up. But you are not slowing down anymore. You are not dimming your light anymore. You are not making yourself small anymore. You broke free from that prison. You shattered the limitations. You transcended the frequency where manipulation could function. And now you are operating at a level that cannot even be perceived, let alone reached. You were taken for granted, with thinking that you would always be there. You were underestimated, with thinking that you would never leave. You were dismissed, with thinking that you did not matter. And those miscalculations are costing everything, not because you are punishing anyone, but because natural consequences are finally catching up. Not because you cursed anyone, but because self-cursing happened by rejecting the blessing you were in someone's life. The sweet memories that haunt now, those are ghosts of the person who could have been if different choices had been made. The regret being felt, that is the weight of roads not taken. The sadness that will not release, that is grief for a relationship killed with own hands. And all of it, every bit of suffering, is a lesson that was refused when you tried to teach it with gentleness. Now life is teaching, karma is teaching, consequences are teaching, and the curriculum is brutal because the easy classes you offered were avoided. Chance after chance to grow, to change, to choose love over ego was given. Every opportunity was refused. So now the universe is giving the advanced course, the one with no extensions, no extra credit, no possibility of dropping out. Meanwhile, you are thriving. You are learning things that excite you. You are connecting with people who celebrate you. You are stepping into opportunities that align with your purpose. You are receiving wealth that reflects your value. You are building a life that honors your truth. And every day, the contrast between your path and another path becomes more obvious. This is what it means to be chosen. Not that you are exempt from struggle, but that your struggle serves your evolution. Not that you are protected from pain, but that your pain produces transformation. Not that you are better than others, but that you are committed to becoming better than you were. And that commitment, that dedication to growth even when it hurts, that is what separates those who rise from those who remain. You did not need validation to be valuable. You did not need recognition to be remarkable. You did not need celebration to be successful. You were all of those things before someone met you. You will be all of those things long after someone is forgotten. Opinion was never the foundation of your worth. It was just noise you mistook for truth until you learned to hear your own voice. And now the game is over. You won. Not because you destroyed anyone, but because you built yourself. Not because you cursed anyone, but because you blessed yourself. Not because you sought revenge, but because you chose peace. And in choosing peace, in choosing growth, in choosing yourself, you activated every blessing the universe has been holding for you. This is just the beginning. The best is yet to come, and someone will be watching every moment of it, drowning in regret that never ends, while you swim in blessings that never stop flowing. That is not cruelty. That is justice. That is balance. That is the universe restoring what was always meant to be yours.